Hi there, welcome back. So, in today's pep talk, I want to talk about eggs. So, the title of today's pep talk is Don't Drop the Wrong Egg. So, the reason why I want to talk about eggs, or why I'm making the egg analogy, is because the egg is symbolic of life. And so I thought it would be quite useful to compare eggs to the different spheres of our life in terms of the activity that we engage in. So typically the human activity that we engage in, we can divide into 5 categories. The first category being education, and that has a lot to do with self-education and self-development and improvement. Then of course there is the physical aspect, so our physical well-being and health. There's the social aspect, so social aspect referring to our relationships with families, friends, and so forth. We also have the material aspect. The material aspect is about the work that you do. And in your case, I think as a student, the material aspect would probably be you studying and sort of your personal growth. And then the last one is the spiritual aspect. So our spiritual well-being, whether that is being religious or creative or whatever the case may be. So really, in order for us to be healthy individuals, holistically healthy, we have to make sure that we're nurturing all of these spheres of our life. Now, I'd like to compare each of these spheres to each one to an egg. And let's say that each of these 5 spheres is represented by an egg. So you have 5 eggs. Now, it's important to realize this, that some of these spheres are really important. And so if you don't balance these spheres, so let's say for example you drop the egg, what happens? Okay, the egg falls on the ground, it splashes everywhere, and there's nothing you can probably do at that point. I mean, you can try and scrape it up and make scrambled eggs, but it's just not going to work. Okay, and so certain aspects of our lives are like that. So take for example the social aspect, I think, which is now more relevant than ever. In terms of making sure that we nurture our social relationships, whether they be with family or friends or just colleagues. Okay, it is important that we don't drop that egg, because those relationships are what tend to provide us with support in very difficult times. And so that's definitely an egg that you do not want to drop. But when it comes to things like your studies, for example, now this is also an egg, but this egg I would more compare to being a boiled egg. So if you drop this egg, it's not that the egg is ruined. Okay, so you can just pick the egg up, take it out of its shell, and then you're going to make egg salad or an egg sandwich or whatever the case may be. So dropping that egg doesn't symbolize the end, of the egg. There's still something else that can come from that. So where am I going with this? I think that when we are students, and especially coming out of high school, typically you come from your high school, you come to a university setting, and you come from being sort of the best and brightest in a small pond to just being a little fish in a big pond, and now you're competing with many other students who were also the best and brightest at their school. And I remember when I was a student, for me, this was a very difficult adjustment to make mentally, because your whole life up until this point, you've kind of been pushed for excellence, and you've got to get 90% or whatever the case may be. And you come to university and you find, hell, it's actually a lot more difficult to do it in the university setting. But I think what I want to encourage you is to say that we cannot get so caught up, in achieving certain marks or whatever the case may be, to the detriment of our holistic well-being. Because the reality is here is that if you don't do too well on a test, or as you don't get as good a mark as what you would have hoped for, you've dropped a boiled egg. Okay, there's always another opportunity to improve and to go forward and to make things right. Okay, but it shouldn't be the case that it gets us so down, that we sort of collapse into ourselves and we like just become sad and depressed about it. Okay, because remember, your value and your worth is not determined by your grades. Okay, so no matter whether they go up or down, it doesn't make you more valuable and it doesn't make you less valuable. Okay, your value as a person exists, okay, outside of what it is you do for a living. And that's a really important point that I want to drive home today. And the other thing, which is an analogy I always make, I always say, if you fail a test, okay, or you do poorly on a test, did anybody die? The answer is no. Okay, except, okay, maybe if you're like a surgeon, okay, and you make a mistake, then yes, somebody can die. But I'm guessing most of you watching this are not surgeons, okay? So the point is, you've got to put it all into perspective. And I think that once we have this perspective, we're going to feel a lot better about who we are and where we find ourselves in our lives. And perspective is everything. If you can just manage that and you can make sure that you're trying to carry all of these eggs and you're not trying to drop them, okay? Just make sure that you realize that some of them, even if they fall, they're boiled eggs, they can be fixed, they can be remedied going forward. But, okay, your worth is not determined by a grade that you get on a test. Okay, so that is my pep talk for today. If you like this content, make sure that you subscribe and leave a comment so that we can get some discussion going down there. Cool. I will see you again in the next video. Bye bye.